Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Fabio De Bernardi, and I'm country manager of Adverity. We are a marketing data intelligence platform, and today I'll be talking to you about marketing ROI, connecting the dots with data. So first of all, marketing ROI, everyone talks about it. It's a bit of an elusive concept. I was on a panel earlier. They were talking about UX and ROI. What I have in mind for this presentation and what these dots mean are either different data sets that you work with as marketeers or agency people, if you work for an agency, and different departments, different functions within your company. So I know that there are many different things that can be said about ROI. I will try to focus primarily, but not only, on paid advertising and the impact it has on revenues of a company. But let's see how awake are you after lunch. Shall we start with some of you telling me what are the biggest challenges in your company when it comes to measuring marketing ROI? Who wants to share some of their experience quickly? Not too many, otherwise I don't know who to pick.
Marketing ROI, biggest challenges? Okay.
No? Okay. Let's... Okay, so consistency of KPIs and different people measuring different things. That's a very good one. So we'll talk about that. So going into the presentation, so marketing ROI is topical. A couple of people already talked about it today. I'm pretty sure that it's a regular sort of catchphrase here in the company as well. But also there is, at the end of last year, Gartner published a survey where they asked CMOs where are they spending the data. And there are two main points that emerge from my point of view. One is that marketing budgets are decreasing. So as a percentage of companies' revenues, marketing budgets went down almost 1%, from 12.1% of revenues of a company to 11.3%. That is a lot of money. And there are, zero-based budgeting is gaining lots of momentum. Unilever, probably the biggest example of company adopting this. The other thing is there is more accountability for marketing roles, CMOs in particular, for revenues and growth. So I guess now with data, there is the opportunity to fill the gap between, okay, this is how I'm investing money and this is what I'm getting back for my money. So there is an expectation and a will, if you wish, from CMOs to be perceived more as growth centers rather than cost centers only. And data is empowering them to do so. Unilever, Procter & Gamble and Coca-Cola, what do they have all in common? What do they all fit what I'm talking about? In the sense that Unilever last year ran fewer ads on TV in particular, but more often, therefore saving money and having more impact. But also they moved a lot of money, I think it was about $250 million from traditional TV over to digital marketing. Both things all in the name of better ROI and better measurability of their results. Procter & Gamble, on the other end, they have decided, or they realized that hyper-targeting on Facebook in particular wasn't really doing any benefits to them, so they took almost an opposite approach. They were targeting like broader groups, not going too specifically into hyper-targeting. And also the other things that where they took money away is the long tail. So they decided that there wasn't much value for them in advertising on tiny platforms. And then again, this is all a decision which has ultimately ROI in mind of their activities. And the last example here is Coca-Cola. So they replaced the role of CMO with Chief Growth Officer. So very much empowering marketing to be a revenue center as well, like a growth center as mentioned before. Now, actually, I've already mentioned this. So the ability or the availability of data today gives marketeers and CMOs the opportunity to close the visibility gap, as I called it, about what they do. So before, they could only say, this is how I invested my money, but it was very difficult to measure returns. Now it's a lot easier to track what is coming back to the company in terms of revenues most of the time or longer-term brand equity and brand awareness. Now, this is actually survival of the fittest, and as you probably all saw, the recent events at WPP with Sir Martin Sorrell's resignation. To me, some people say that's all like a political thing. To me, that is like the last nail in the coffin, probably, of the traditional media agency model, where who do you know and sort of deals made over lunch or dinner are almost more important than measurability and visibility. What we're seeing in the market now is brands demanding more transparency and questioning the transparency of the relationship with their agencies, and independent agencies that are nimble and built on like data and transparency thriving. So I really feel that this is a kind of big switch for the old media agency businesses. Now, protect your eyes, because the next slide is going to have a white background, so poof, lots of light coming to you. This is another research came out last year, and this takes me a bit closer to the heart of my presentation. Now, when interviewed by Experian, 100 global marketing directors and CMOs were asked, what are the biggest strategic challenges that you're facing? And on the second biggest one was building data and analytics capabilities. Now, when the same group has been asked, okay, what are the areas where you feel most prepared for and least prepared for, the least prepared for, but in fairness, almost the most prepared for as well, was capturing value from data and analytics. This tells me again that this is a very important area for marketing. And going back to the same Gartner research, the biggest area of investment in technology for marketeers in 2018, with almost 10% of their overall marketing budget, is in marketing analytics technology. So there is definitely an understanding in market that measuring what is being done and then being able to calculate this ROI and measure this ROI, it is absolutely fundamental. CEOs want to do it, want to see it, and CMOs are being sort of KPI'd on it as well. Now, finally, an image in this presentation. Where is Wally? You old enough to remember where is Wally? Today, I've turned it into where is your marketing data? Because the truth is that, as somebody pointed out in the first panel today, that your marketing data is, and your data in general really, is scattered all over the company. And even more tricky, is scattered all over your ecosystem of partners. So if you're advertising, if you're having marketing campaigns on Google, Facebook, or the big names, plus some other platforms, the data that you need to use to measure your own marketing activity is all on these platforms. And it's quite difficult and onerous to get hold of the data in the first place. So just to give you a quick idea of the proliferation of marketing technology over the last 7 years. So we started with about 150 platforms, give or take. In 2011, we are beyond 5,000 platforms now. Now, these are not necessarily all platforms that you guys are using, but there are so many different data sets that are screaming for attention. Some is CRM, some is pure data, some is website analytics. There is all sorts of them. And we think it's very important that somehow your company as an overview of all this data into one place. So how is it normally done? With a process that I label like built in the past. So a decade ago, or even just a few years ago, and companies are still doing it, there were like a few data sources, and then people could get away with manually harvesting this data and then put it on spreadsheets and PowerPoint, send it around. That's probably the graveyard where all PowerPoint goes to die. But this was almost an acceptable method. Today, again, we have so many data sources, so many data points, that is unrealistic to expect that people can do the work manually. So what we're seeing is a trend towards automating processes and having technologies that allow you to harvest this data and make sense of this data in a smart way and automatically. So if on the background of this slide there is a steam train, and this is where technology sort of was and what some companies are still using, I'm telling you what is the technology you need to use today. To paraphrase, is this. You've moved on from a steam train, although it's still a nice nice thing, to a brand new shiny sports car. So what is if your company doesn't have that level of sort of technology and automation, what is the reason? Why is that? And actually, we really think that, as marketeers, you probably want to step away as much as you can from menial work of like copy-pasting data into Excel and then rendering on PowerPoint and fighting with other colleagues to try and get data data you need to, and you probably want to have this as an automated platform and something a lot more functional. Now, a lot of companies, they focus on data visualization. They want sexy stuff. They sell you sexy stuff. What I do for a living, and what I think is actually very important, is the not so sexy, not so glamorous stuff of getting the data into the system in the first place, so then it can make look beautiful. So harvesting the data is very important to then have the data to calculate, to measure your ROI. Now, I have 5 minutes, and I was hoping, gosh, the time has gone, it's flown. I was hoping to leave it for a couple of minutes to any questions. So what are the 5 key takeaways that I want to leave you with? One is, as a company, you need to have a plan, or make a plan if you don't have one, as to how you're going to measure your marketing ROI. So ask yourself a very simple question. What data do I need to be able to measure my ROI? And then go around the company and bang on any department's door saying, hey, your sales or your whatever, purchasing, whatever, I need your data because I want to create a picture of our ROI, of our marketing campaigns. And if you explain people why you're trying to get access to the data and what's the benefit for them as well, they normally are quite open to give you that access. The second thing, but actually this could be seen as a first thing as well, that they can be swapped, is collect data. So if you're not collecting data, then you're missing the point. Collecting data for the sake of collecting data doesn't help anyone, but I would argue that it's probably better than not having data that you can work with. Break down data silos. So this is actually very important. As I said, the data could be sitting in different, like in spreadsheets, in databases, on Facebook, Google, whatever. So you need to make sure that all this data is gathered together into one place. If the CMO or the CEO walks into a room and say, how much did we spend last year in marketing? You should be able to just go, or either know the figure, or go into one tool, push a couple of buttons and see what the number is. No excuse not to have that. And also, as I said, if you go to your colleagues and explain why you want to have access to their data, we see that they're generally quite open because they understand why. I have a couple of examples of real clients, but in the interest of time, I'll skip them for now and tell you later if you want to. Find the right technology. I've stressed about this a bit. I think I gave it away that I'm a technology person. But yeah, the right technology is important. If you have all the data you need, I mean, a plan and a data is even more important. But if you don't have the technology help to make you effective and efficient, then you're just treading water and you're not really getting to actionable ROI, which at the end is all it matters, right? Find the right people. So technology is important. People are extremely important. We see, and actually one of the research I quoted said that there's a 50% skills gap. So companies are struggling to find the right analysts, the right profiles that can actionate this data, that can make it meaningful. So if you're planning a change of career, then maybe that's a good one. But yeah, the data, whether it's internal people or agency people, are extremely important in understanding your data. And then a bonus question, to AI or not to AI? Artificial intelligence. The gentleman before made some very good examples about automating completely the media buying process and then planning process. Personally, I am a believer in the future of artificial intelligence. I'm not entirely sure where it is yet. What I would say is start with the basics. Make sure that your company has the basics covered, and later on think about the fancy stuff, the AI, the bells and whistles, but start with the basics. And to finish, although probably run out of time, it takes 200 muscles to stand still. Why am I saying this? Because just to do this very simple thing of standing in front of you, there are about 200 muscles that are pushing and pulling, and even if it looks like I'm doing nothing, my body is in flux. This is what we think you should do as a company as well. Just to have data and to make sure that you get the basics covered, you need to get a lot of moving parts to work together. If some of these muscles start to ache because they're not working properly, very soon the whole body will ache and you will be in trouble. So act sooner than later. And data is the new oil, as somebody said earlier. That's what the rig. That is me. Thank you very much for your attention.
Wonderful.